Hey guys, happy Wednesday. I'm ready to work on some calculations. How about you? So our first problem is they tell us our answer and they're saying this is the answer to some number times 4. So I'm going to rewrite this as a division problem. I was taking what was out here on the other side of the equal sign and dividing by 4. And anytime that I have the same two numbers, I know right away this answer here is 1. Okay, and I also should know from when I go back to this, if I have my number and I'm making groups of something, right? I'm making 4 groups and I don't know how much is in each group and I end up with 4. I clearly can't have more than 1 here because look, those two numbers are the same. Okay, so our next one's talking about 16 divided by some number equals 2. So I'm taking my 16 items and I'm splitting it up, and I'm going to have 2 in each group. Okay, so I wrote this 2 ways. So I could change this around and I could say 2 times, I'm just kind of go the other way, right? 2 times some number equals 16, or I could turn that into a division problem. See if that helps for you guys to see it. 16 divided by 2. So 16, and we're going to split it into 2 groups. How much is in each group? Okay, I also wrote my fact triangle here. Remember, whenever I'm doing my division problem, my largest number is going to be on that top part. And then I'm going 16 divided by 2 gives me that. Or I'm doing my 2 times some number equals 16. And remember, I can do the same thing the other way. 16 divided by something equals 2. And something times 2 equals 16. So I know if I'm using my estimation skills, I know that 2 times 10 gives me 20. So I know this is going to be smaller. I know 2 times 5, if I'm like using this problem, 2 times 5 gives me 10. So I know it's going to be larger than that. So I know my number is going to be between 5 and 10 and kind of more towards the middle. 2 times 7 gives me 14, so that won't work. So when I use these are basic facts too, guys, right? So we should know this. Here, I'm looking in the column with 2 for me to find it, or I can go this way too, and then I'm going to kind of look from the other way when I find 16 in 2's column. I move over, and that was times 8. So my answer here should be 8. 2 times 8 equals 16. All right, on to my improper fraction. We should be remembering that we are going to do our denominator times our whole plus our numerator. So when I write that in problem form, it looks like that. 10 times 3 plus 1. And remember, that's all above the bar. And that's over 10 because 10 is our denominator. So we're going to do what's in the parentheses first, and then we're going to add. So I end up with 30, and I put the parentheses. You don't have to, but that's from my 10 times 3. And then I have my plus 1 over 10, and I end up with 31 over 10. Okay, and that makes sense because when I see this 3 wholes, remember in one whole I have 10, so that's 10 over 10. And let me write that kind of on the side. So I just want to remind you, right, this 3 wholes is like 10 over 10 plus 10 over 10 plus 10 over 10 because we have 3 that are these. That's what that whole means, plus this other 1 over 10. And we know that when I'm talking about fractions, whenever my denominator is the same, I just add my numerators. This is where I get my 30 from. That's over here. And then I have my 1. That's where I get my 31 over 10. I hope this is getting easier for you. Okay, so I did 2 things. So the first thing, if you notice, I have numbers that are up here, and that's because that's going to help me with my estimate. On this one, I'm going to look after the decimal, and because this is less than 5, I'm going to round it down to 4. And when I have 2 and 9/10, I'm going to round that up to 3. And I know that 4 times 3 is 12. So this should be around 12. That's my estimate, okay? And then I rewrote my problem. And so this time it just followed directly across how it's stated. And I would have kept it that way. If it was 2.9 times the 4 and 69 thousandths, I would have wrote it this way anyway, because as we've been talking about that, there's only 2 numbers here, so I'd have only 2 add-ins. Okay, let's start our multiplication then. So I'm always going to start on the right, and I'm going to do I'm going to move my camera. I'm going to start on the right, and 9 times 9 is 81. So I'm going to put my 1, and I'm going to carry my 8. 9 times 6 is 54. And then on this one, I could count up 8, or I could say this is 54. I could round up to 10, right, which will make it 64. But I only did 8, so I have to take 2 away from that. So I know I have 62. I'm going to carry my 6. And then I'm going to 9 times 0 is 0 plus my 6. I think I want to make it clear. Gives me 6. And 9 times 4 is 36. And because of the fact that I have nothing more to multiply, that's why I put that down. As I start my next line for my 2, because that's in the moving over, this is in the ones, but if we're not counting like the decimals in this yet, right, that'd be like in the tens. So I'm going to put my placeholder, I put my 0, and now I start my multiplication. 2 times 9 is 18, so I'm going to put my 8, and I'm going to carry my 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 3. I'm going to carry my 1. Notice we're lining up our values each time. That's super important. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. So I do that. Then I'm going to add. And remember, when I add, same as when I multiply or subtract, right, I start on the right. And this one I'm adding, so usually when we add, we get bigger. 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 8 is 10, so I'm going to put my 0 and carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 is 10, carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 1 is 8. 3 plus 8 is 11. Okay, so there's my multiplication done. Now I go back and look at my decimals. I can look at my original problem, or I can look here in the one that I rewrote. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking at the places after the decimal. And when I'm looking in this one, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to start behind the problem, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to end up with 11.8001. How'd you do? I hope you got that. Okay, the next one we have 66 divided by 2. So I'm taking my 66 and I'm splitting it into 2 groups. So I'm going to do this. This is what my problem will look like, right? But I'm also going to go with something for my reasoning that's going to help me for my estimate. So I'm going to take my 10s and my 1s and I'm going to split it up just so that I can come with it. Now remember, I'm doing an estimate. I'll be honest on this one because we're talking about 2s. My estimate is going to be exact because you'll see why, okay? So like I was saying, what I did was I took my 66 and I broke it up to 60 divided by 2. This is the 10s and 6 is the 1s. I don't know about you, but I hope that this is a pretty easy problem, especially if I rewrite this, because I know many of you get kind of freaked out by division. What if I rewrote it this way and I said 2 times what number equals 6? I'm positive that you guys can come up with 3. And then doing the same way this way, remember, we're still going to have our 3, but we have a 0 on the end. So this is just like 30. And then I'm just going to add these two together. 30 plus 3, right? This is going to give me 33. So this is my estimate, but this is also my real answer just because we have it here. But let's go through the division just so we make sure we remember how, okay? So I'm going to start here on the left. Remember, division's the weird one. And I'm taking a look. If I have 6 items, I'm splitting them into 2 groups, which is exactly my problem here, right? And I'm going to do, I get 3 groups. 2 times 3 gives me 6. And I subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. And I'm going to bring down my 6. And I want to go back because when I said it here, 2 divided by 6, and I pointed to this, I just meant this is what you're thinking about. But because this is in the tens, this is technically what you are doing. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Okay. All right. So going back, I have 6 items and I'm splitting it into groups of 2. I know I can get 3 groups. 2 times 3 is 6. When I subtract, I get 0. And there's my 33, just like when we figured it out that way. Okay? All right. See you tomorrow.